Hello, Midland Christian family, and welcome to the MCS podcast telling the story of Midland Christian School, past, present, and future.
Back in studio with some guests from last time, and so I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
My name's Avery Morgan. I'm a senior.
Jason Miner, I'm a senior.
Katie Bundy, and I'm also a senior.
Well, thanks for coming back, and thanks for being here. Based on some of the conversations we had, one of the topics that we just got on that was, I think, really important and positive to the dynamic of this school is the K through 12 aspect of it. And I think for me, it really is an example of how we help become more Christ-like in terms of at one point you're being mentored, you're being, you are the apprentice, and then at some point in time you are the image or the mentor that other kids are following by. So with that, just what has it been like for you guys to be in one side being mentored and then now being the mentors to other kids, younger kids? And I guess on the second point of that question would be, how do you think that helps you in your relationship with God, your own life? Like, how does it help you be more Christ-like?
Well, I can share my immediate. I came here in 7th grade, so I didn't really get the whole elementary aspect, but I just kind of think about sports and all the guys that were before me, River and, Coach Mason McClendon, they were big mentors for me. And I just think, like, looking back, like, I wanted to be like those guys. Those guys did mentor me. They taught me a lot of the things that I know now, and especially like in football, certain like moves and throws. I wanted to be like those guys. Basketball too, and track. Is really, and then godly wise, I think I watched a lot of those grades before me, kind of trial and error, a lot of things like, hey, I don't want to be remembered like that, but I do want to be remembered in those ways. So I kind of got to see the best of both sides, I think.
I've been at Midland Christian my whole life.
Oh,
so, yeah, I've been here since pre-K.
Yes. Pre-K.
Yes, sir. So I did like my kinder walk with the senior and everything, and I have friends who still remember that. And so I've been through the ups and downs. I've seen it all. And so, I mean, I've looked up, like, even in elementary, like, you always look up to the upperclassmen and stuff, and you're just like, man, I want to be like those guys. And then once you're in junior high, you're like, hey, like, I'm like in the halls with them now, and you're just like, man, like, I can kind of like talk to them, but you really can't. It's like, really scary. But yeah, like, being in this position now, it's like, it kind of just happens. Like, one day you're just like, oh, I'm a senior now. I'm like, I kind of have to like mentor these guys. I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I think it was 7th grade years. It was like, leave your mark was like our kind of like saying around the school. And so I kind of just like carry that with me. Like, hey, like, how am I going to leave a mark on these like freshmen? Like, how do I want them to be when they're a senior? And so that's like kind of the idea I get.
Being in 5th grade, I remember Mr. Elliott's senior class was we had Bible buddies with them, and now getting to be a Bible buddy to a kindergartner, and they just scream and are excited when we walk into the room and make sure their Bible buddy's here and where are we going to sit. And yeah, it's just it's exciting to be that for somebody else. And then I had also talked about like Will Schulmer in that grade, and like Morgan Schoening and like Carson Hufford, like our hurdle crew. I hurdled my freshman and sophomore year, and like we would go swim at Morgan Schoening's house before every track meet, and like in that connection with the upperclassmen, like it was pretty neat, and they just kind of took us under their wing, and then it didn't feel like we were so different. We were just friends, and so trying to be that for younger students as well.
I think just the fact of just like being included with older people, like, it's so cool. And it's nice to know that like now, like, just your presence when you walk in like a Bible buddy's room, is that big of a deal for them. And so I just think just like going through life with those mentors that we had was just so special.
How do you guys, like I said, that second frame of that question from, and it probably is two aspects of your guys, the four pillars in terms of Christ-likeness and the R, relationship driven. Do you feel pressure ever to behave a certain way or act a certain way, or do you feel like this is a spirit moving you to say, hey, you're at this point, you're at this school for a reason. How can I set the best example as walking with God and be an example? Because kids in kindergarten or middle school, they might not have a complete understanding for their relationship with God yet. And so Christ was the best image that we have of how to live our lives. And in some ways, you guys are an example of that image by, you know, your faith that you have and the way that you behave and stuff like that. Is that pressure, or is it something that you guys feel like, no, it's a calling as being a part of the school and this community?
I feel like this school and those past mentors have prepared me for these moments that I'm in now. So I don't necessarily feel the pressure. Maybe just like a little bit to like, okay, everything I do now is magnified. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I have to be more cautious than I was.
It's exciting. I love it. It's like Avery said, we're so prepared for it. And so it's fun being able to be like, you know, 4 years ago I was a freshman. I was looking up to those seniors, and it's like, well, now I'm in their shoes. How are you gonna do better than them? Not even just be on par, but how are you gonna do better? Mm-hmm. And so it's really exciting to be able to, you know, mentor to the younger ones.
I remember being in 7th grade and we had like a worship chapel, and I was like, I would always be like, I want to raise my hand, but I'm really nervous and I can't do it. But I remember like there was a couple times and I would stand on the front row and I did. And like, I was like, okay, like if I close my eyes, it feels like no one's watching. But like now it feels like, okay, like I want to raise my hand, but I'm also going to do this to help lead others in that same way. And so like, oh, Katie's raising her hand. It's not like I'm the only one. Like, also, I just think the worship that we've done and the atmosphere around that we've created is just like so much growth has come through that these past years. And like worship with Albert and worship with like, there's a class now for the student worship team, and they go to that every day. And so like, I think there's also people like there's people in my life that I've worshiped with, and there's people in my life that I haven't worshiped with, and they've been mentors, but I'm always closer to the people that I have worshiped with because we have that bond and we have that connection. And so
for sure,
I've come from a big school, big high school. I didn't experience things from K through 12. I saw older kids. I watched, we go to high school football games, so like that, but you never had a relationship or a visual every day of seeing those older kids. Would you prefer a different way?
I love it. Yeah. I think like I go back to sports again. Like even if I have a bad game, those elementary kids are still gonna run up to me after the game.
Yeah.
You know, even if I throw an interception, they're not gonna see it or care. Like they're gonna run up and say Avery, and it's just like you just have this overwhelming fan base that makes you feel so supported and special, and it's a cool environment to be in.
It makes it more of a community for sure, because like if it was just a high school, then like it holds you more accountable too, especially like with elementary and junior high, because they look up to you like so much. And so the fact that it is a community and that you can be held accountable, like that is something like I hold like so dear to my heart. So definitely would not change that.
Yeah. How do you feel like you're spiritually prepared and academically prepared to go on past high school?
Academically, like great. Like
not even worried about it.
Yeah, like honestly, and like with college applications and like all this and the stress of that, like I'm not worried because I know God has a plan for me, and if I don't get into the school I want to get into, it's okay. I have other schools that want me, right. And so like that's great. And then spiritually, like I don't think I could have gone anywhere else and like have been like this close in my relationship with Christ. Like it's so like I don't even know how to like put this into words, but it's just like so like close to my heart that I was able to have this experience, because like I grew up like with this, like this is all I know, and so I don't know like what it's like coming from public school and having that different perspective, but like being able to have that, like I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah,
I think that academically I am prepared, and even if I lacked in a certain area, they gave opportunities to excel where I was lacking academically. And spiritually, I think it's been really good because I don't want to say nag in a negative connotation, but it's been like a constant nag towards Christ. So even if I didn't want to, it was still there. Yeah. And it put me in this area that I still like, it's still a personal relationship with myself, not somebody else's one forced upon me, but it still forced me into, like nurtured me into that, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's like, if I see this many people devote their life to God, he's got to be real. Like he's got to be like this many people, their whole life is just developing people in their relationship with him, and that's just, and there's a statistic, don't quote me on this, but 70% of college kids walk away from their faith in college. And, you know, and like growing up with all these people that went to college and then came back here, it shows like, dang, this is special. You know, I don't want to be in the 70%.
Last summer I was at a camp, or maybe it was 2 summers ago. And one of the men in ministry who I really admire came up to me and he said, "Who are you discipling? Who are the people that are your disciples?" You know. And I actually went to a retreat this past weekend, and he was talking about these are the people. He brought them on stage. These are the people who discipled me. And then he turned around and he said, "Here are the people that I'm discipling." You know. And so I think it's important to be able to think, because I went to lunch with Miss Gardard recently, and like a name just in my head constantly, I said, this is the person who I feel like God is telling me I need to be discipling him, you know. And so if you're able to think about, and that goes with the relationship part, the relationship driven and emotional intelligence too, being able to emotionally help walk someone through a situation. But being asked the question, who are you discipling, I think is huge and really important. Like, the specific people that you're discipling, you know.
I think it's kind of been one of those things that we've strived for, and now it's on paper. But I read all of those, and I mean, like, we do live, like, Midland Christian lives it out, like Christ-like. I look at the faculty every day, and the faculty are sold out to be Christ-like, you know, and having that example in your life is super important. Academically prepared this year, especially, like, the amount of dual credit classes that are available are insane, you know. Relationship driven, Dr. Anderson, with all of us seniors, like, he takes all of us to lunch, and
at his house,
he strives to have. He's the guy that I look up to so much, and being relationship driven is like one of his main points, you know, and emotionally intelligent. Like, we have small groups, we have mentorships, Bible buddies, you know, and I feel like our school lives this out great. I think it's great.
You know, it's interesting you said that, because I feel like that's one of the things I would affirm in you guys just based on my conversations with you. And I know in the past when we sat down prior to even doing any of this series, is like all different backgrounds, all different types of parents that you've come from. But I would say that you guys hit all of these marks at a very, you know, if you want to give it a grade, a high grade. Like, it's impressive too. And for you guys to say, well, we don't really, I mean, you know what it is, but it's not something that you're sitting there just getting beat in your head every day. But the dynamic of the culture that I think it's a testimony to not only the school, but your parents too, in regards to how you've been raised, and, you know, their first job as being parents in regards to this, because that's where you spend most of your time. So I would just affirm that in you guys. Like, it has been impressive to sit down and talk with you guys and have conversations with you and hear your feedback and just see these things in action. So if we were to kind of bounce through each one of these letters in the acronym, what do you think it means for a Midland Christian student to be Christ-like?
It's a big question. I think one of the things that we have easy access to is mission with our mission week. And I think Midland Christian has given me the tools I need to be able to do that. And I think that's through Bible class, through our small groups, you know. A servant leader is huge. And so being able to serve others through that, and me being able to experience that, like, being Christ-like is being an encourager of other people who are trying as well. And so I think like, servant leadership is huge, and like encouragement is huge. And also just being comfortable enough through our Bible classes. Like, I feel comfortable enough to disagree with Jason because I know Jason's going to be respectful of me, you know? And so we can live like this and be kind to each other. And, we've just been given the tools to be able to do that. And so exercising the tools that we've been given, I think is a huge step in being able to be Christ-like at Midland Christian.
From an academically prepared perspective, how do you think this school has done that in you being ready to go do more school? Or I think there's a bigger aspect than just going to college too. It's being able to effectively learn for the rest of your life as well too. So
it's definitely helped me develop a lot of traits like hard work, organization, time management. You know, most of our teachers don't accept late work ever. You know, so you have to be on time if you want to pass. And also a big awesome part about our grade is how competitive it is. You know, that we have like so many people that are like 4.5s, you know, 1st to 11th are like 4.5s, 4.4s, which is crazy. So a big part about that is like our teachers, a lot of our assignments are kind of open-ended. So a lot of it we've kind of had to come together and we figure it out. And that kind of helped me develop my creativity, especially. And becoming problem solver. We've had very rigorous teachers. I mean, Miss Niemeyer, I think about a lot of those classes really pushed me to become the best of my ability, I think.
From a perspective of the relationships that you probably have created in this school and then learning how to take them further and build upon those, how do you think you've been prepared to do that?
It's prepared me very well. And just like having the K through 12 aspect has helped out so much because, I mean, in elementary, I mean, you're kind of more just like, oh, like I'm with my classmates and stuff. And then junior high, you really like expose like, hey, like there's 8th grade now and I'm in 7th grade. Like I look up to these guys. Like these are my role models and stuff. And so, I mean, even especially in high school, like that, it's just been, this year especially has just been such a blessing just to be able to mentor to the younger guys and just be like, hey, like, let's just go to lunch. Like going to lunch is just so simple. Just be like, hey, just come with me. Like, let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about you. Like, what do you like to do for fun? You like to play video games, you like to play sports, just stuff like that. And so, like, going into the future, like, I'm definitely not afraid to make relationships at all. Like, that's something that is, like, Midland Christians prepared me so well for. And I'm especially, like, I'm not afraid to have relationships that I know are going to be, like, with more conflict maybe. You know, people I disagree with and stuff. Like, I'm not going to be afraid to go out into the world and, you know, be like, hey, like, I'm a Christian. Like, Midland Christians prepared me so well for that. And then just relationship with my classmates, I mean, it's awesome. Our grade is, like, it's very competitive, like Avery said, but it's also just like such a tight community. Yes. And so it's, I'm very grateful for that. And so it's prepared me very well.
Do you guys think from I'll just add on the relationship thing, the discipling of Jesus, do you feel like there's an aspect of that you're kind of like, yeah, I'm not scared to know that they need to hear this from me, or I'm ready to ask someone the question, like, how are you doing spiritually? Or, you know, can I do anything for you? Can I pray with you?
Yeah, I think going to a Christian school, it makes it really easy that's not an uncommon topic. Yeah. You know, and our grade especially, man, like bragging on them again, like I feel like I can talk to that with anybody in our grade, you know? I feel like it was a lot of people with a lot of different talents and abilities that all came together for the same goal. Yeah. You know, and it makes all these so easy to live out.
I think the way Jason put it, I'm not afraid to be Christ-like. I'm not afraid to go to college because I feel academically prepared. Yeah. I'm not afraid to be relationship. I'm not afraid to make new friends or meet new people. Like, I think that's a really, really great way to put that.
The emotionally intelligent part is something that I think is, it's very important, and it's also very, very difficult to understand what it means, especially at a young age, because I think you're hit with a lot of emotions, but you're also probably guided through them better than you would be on your own as you become an adult. So I think it was an interesting thing to add to this model for me, because I think it's something that prepares you for the rest of your life to be able to deal with life punching at you and plainly the enemy attacking you in every which way from every which perspective that you can be attacked at, and being emotionally intelligent, being self-aware of your emotions, like even to the point where you're able to say, you know what, I'm pretty frustrated or I'm angry right now, and taking that emotion to God first before you ever take it to somebody else, and learning that tool it's such a critical thing in every relationship you deal with. If I could give you any advice, just keep pressing on that one as much as you can. Search it out and figure out what it means to you.